Are the Edmonton Oilers actually cursed? Welcome back to the Pucked Up Podcast, Mother Puckers. This is the not necessarily final episode, but it is the final episode where we have actually watched a hockey game recently. That was last night. We all watched a hockey game. Yeah, we are somehow at the end of our season. For those of you who don't know who we are, how the fuck did you find this episode? Please tell us in the comments because I am genuinely curious. My name is D-Bag. I am one of your hosts. I am joined by my other lovely host, Chris or Finjiff. And we are also joined by our lovely guest, Gus Mall. And the three of us are here to talk about all things pucked up in this world. Starting off, let's actually have a quick little conversation, if you will, about the Stanley Cup final, because that literally just happened. Why not get the big guns out of the gate?
Let's take
You know
a
what I
quick
mean?
stroll over to Conversation Street.
Will you join me for a promenade down Conversation Street? What a game, y'all. I mean, I know we didn't watch it together. I know Chris and Maul did. I did not. I was watching it with my parents while simultaneously flipping back between that game and the Calder Cup because my beloved Hershey Bears, and we'll talk about them later.
I would say we will
And
talk about the Calder
also,
Cup too.
yeah. Also switching into the Texas A&M Tennessee Volunteers college baseball World Series game.
Yeah, I was gonna say
So,
that I forgot that
there's a
that
lot.
was going on because UConn made it pretty far too, so I was kind of paying
Yeah.
attention.
Vols won, much to
Not
my brother's
surprised.
dismay because he's a big Aggies fan.
Oh, that's fair.
So yeah, I was like an ADD little hummingbird that entire night. But what a game.
What a
What
series,
a game.
right? What
Yeah.
a playoffs.
First of all, how long had it been? Do we realize it was like 60 fucking years or something since someone had forced a game 7 after being down
74
3?
years since a team had
Jesus
forced a game
Christ.
7. 82 years since that team won. It's only happened, what, 3
Once.
times? Well, no,
Well,
just
3
the
times since they
teams
forced it.
Yeah, 3
Yeah.
times since the teams forced it. And we were also at one point close to the first sweep since 1998. So it was
Right?
like
That would have been sick.
it was just so much was on the line. History was on the line. The
Yeah.
drought for Canada was on the line. Watching a team get their first Stanley Cup championship. We have gone 2 straight years now with 2 teams claiming their first franchise Stanley Cups, which I think is fucking awesome.
Which is kind of cool. That's a cool stat.
Yeah, I mean, what a series, what a game.
I will say, I noticed both teams took a little bit of our advice and cut the penalties significantly down.
Yeah,
That's
6
probably
significantly
the
down.
biggest change in all 7 of the games is just how their penalties dropped. I think it was like 2 and 5 minutes.
It was 2 and 4. So
Yeah.
literally 6 total minutes of penalties. So that's it.
Yeah.
And I mean, at one point, Chris, in the second period, they went almost 8 minutes without a whistle.
It was like 7.5 minutes without a whistle. It was nuts. That's what we were freaking out the whole time. We're like, holy shit.
Yeah. The Oilers also went almost 8 minutes without a shot on goal, which
Yeah.
is crazy. And then they were beating the brakes off Bobrovsky, and he was just standing there like, so what? I don't give a fuck. I'll stop them all.
It was crazy.
Where the hell was he the last 3 games that he just showed up tonight out of nowhere?
This man must have been juicing because honestly, that performance was just uncalled for.
But on the other side of things, let's just say it how it is. You know the difference between game 5 and 6 and game 7? Where was Connor McDavid on the score sheet?
Yeah.
Connor McDavid had 2 shots on goal. Hey, here's another one. How about Leon Draisaitl? He posted a fucking goose egg. He didn't even get a shot on goal. Zach Hyman, 2 shots on goal. That kind of
your
top line did nothing in the most important game of the season.
that goes to what we were talking about last week, right? Where if the Panthers could rest in a game 6, their
Mhm.
top line would be able to produce in a game 7. Meanwhile, Edmonton has been fucking lights out. They've been producing like crazy the last couple of games. So now you're gonna force them to have to rest their players on the biggest night of the fucking year.
Yeah.
And I kinda think that that's what happened.
I mean,
Like,
granted,
that's hockey.
yes. Yeah, I know. Well, granted, yes, the top line for Florida wasn't exactly super in. I mean, the only one that had a point registered was fucking Sam Reinhart, which
Yeah,
I was talking to Maul when that shot went in, and he was like, "Whoa, I can't believe that." I'm like, "No,
yeah,
you can't give Sam Reinhart any room.
He fought
he
for that.
he
Like
will score."
yeah,
he outskated 2 players to get that goal.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, he's that good. I mean, we talked about this year how he had 57 goals this year. Like complete breakout season stuff, which is what we've been expecting from someone who was a second overall pick. Like, and yet again, 2 years in a row, another star for the Buffalo Sabres is a Stanley Cup champion. Another
There
former
you go.
Buffalo Sabre is a champion because Jack Eichel did it last year.
Yeah.
Um, I, do you want to talk about a team that it felt like game one? It felt like
Mhm.
game one.
I mean, it was a much closer score than game 1, if I remember correctly.
I
Mhm.
believe,
I
yeah.
crazy that it was a 2-1. I know all 3 of us were just hoping for some overtime hockey.
I
Um,
honestly,
that
yeah,
would've been
I
great.
was really
But
hoping for that.
I was begging for it.
yeah.
It was so close too.
Oh, like several times it was so close.
Oh yeah. Oh, and
But
then
the
there was the
biggest thing that I noticed that kind
Mhm.
of frustrated me the most about this game was the amount of time the Panthers spent laying on the puck and no delay of game was called.
so that
Mm,
needs to be addressed. That needs to be
yeah.
a thing that the NHL looks at because more often than not that happens and I'm not cool with that either.
Yeah.
Like if you're sitting literally there was at one point Maul weren't we literally yelling. There was he was
Yeah,
laying on the puck. Like
and
it
this
was a
was in
fumble.
right, and this was in the Oilers side of the field,
Yeah.
the arena too. So it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
it wasn't helping anyone. And I feel like that extra maybe combined minute and a half
They could have had more
could
offensive
have
opportunities.
potentially
Yeah.
given them a chance because
Yeah.
the Oilers were on a roll in the last, 5 minutes of the game.
They had so many chances. So many of those pucks should have gone in.
I think the refs were doing that thing where they're like, "I guess we let him play. We really don't wanna be the person who makes a
Okay,
call that
well,
has,
right.
that we get shouted at on Twitter for."
But
So
they didn't
we
let them
said that a
fight
lot.
either.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, I
we
know,
said
which
that
is
a lot
bullshit.
last night too. Is there was a lot of things that should have been called that weren't, and we just assumed they were just letting them play, which I am all for. But if there's some blatant, there
To
was
an
like a blatant
extent.
high stick, there was a tripping. I was like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what are we? What? We got to be consistent on all fronts. Like I'm all for letting them
Yeah.
play, but yeah, I
Well, then what
it
they
was
did call was also questionable.
there was a couple that were
Like,
pretty questionable. It was
like
like,
I know we
whoa,
kind of
what?
talked a little bit back and forth about like the Florida penalty for the guy that for the
Matthew
tripping.
Kachuk, yeah, who
Yeah,
fell
for
and got a
for the
tripping penalty
tripping.
for taking
When
out.
you look at it, it looked like he fell, but he fell into another player. So it's like
Right.
So the way,
where
yeah,
were the refs were
exactly.
very inconsistent.
Which, like, story of the fucking season, you know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
know, I know. That's been nuts. But I want to circle back to what we talked about at the beginning of the season. Our question
That was so
was,
long ago.
what was going to happen with the Oilers, and how are they going to dig themselves out of the hole that they started at the beginning of the year? Well, we saw
Mhm.
it, and we saw them become the hottest team in the league and damn near win the whole fucking thing. um, I think that's a testament to the ability of that team. I don't think we've seen the last of them. They have the taste of this now. Now they
But
know how to get there.
I think that leads into our question of the week. What does Edmonton need to do to win? What do they need to do to prep for next season to be competitive and to not start out the season, 0-10 or whatever the fuck it was? They lost like every game
So
possible.
bad.
It was terrible. And then kinda shit the bed at the biggest moment possible. So, like, what do they need to do?
Maul, you want to take a start?
I'm gonna put Maul on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. What
I
do you
will say
think?
number one is be consistent because we've seen them at their worst this season and we've seen them at their best this season. And I feel like there was no in between. They either played at 110% or they played at 10%.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, first 3 games of the Stanley Cup, everyone was like, okay, when are the Oilers going to show up? Games 4 through 6, holy shit, here they are. Game 7, back to disappearing. You
Yeah,
know, they need consistency because they have the talent, they have the players, and they have the support. They just need to stay consistent, damn it. Lay off the partying and celebration of how good you're doing and just be consistent through the season. Party in the off season like everyone else.
Yeah.
I
fair
mean,
enough.
it's the reality
Very
of it is
fair.
like, they started 0-10 and then they came back to being one of the final 2 teams for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah,
They they brought back and forced a game 7 against all odds
right.
Yeah.
and then went back to how they were in the start of the year.
Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that Maul said, but like here's another fact. Last year, we had the same exact gripe, didn't we? Your
Mhm.
top line had everyone on that top line last year for the Oilers had a 100-point season. Where were they in the playoffs? They were
Right.
not. They were a non-factor. And we said last year it's great to have depth, but when your stars aren't producing, that's going to hinder your team. What did we see in the
Mhm.
finals? They were heavily reliant on Connor McDavid.
McDavid,
Connor McDavid had
Draisaitl.
42 points
Yeah.
in the playoffs. That's insane. But the other thing that's crazy to me is the fact that Leon Draisaitl didn't record a single fucking goal at all in the Stanley Cup Finals. He had 3 assists. That is the only
Mhm.
number that he has for a stat in the Stanley Cup Finals. That is terrible for someone who scored 41 goals this season. He had a 106-point season. And you mean to tell me that when it matters most,
Yeah.
you again can't show up? So I feel like I always make the joke of Connor McDavid's going to end up the Peyton Manning of the NHL, being great in the regular
Yeah.
season, but just can't get it in the postseason. Well, the problem was he willed that motherfucking team to a game 7 and didn't have the help for the rest of the team. So
Yeah.
I think I don't know. Like it's so like do you have to shake things up?
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
have to move some players? Do you have
That
to
is my
change
guess.
lines? What has to happen here because you've now gotten that close and
Too many times.
you can't and you didn't. You came up short. Now, we saw this last year with Florida. Florida
Mhm.
came back better and now won the Stanley Cup. So, if
But Florida made some
and
changes.
Florida made a couple changes. Um and I don't know. It makes me kind of sad now at this point. Because
Well,
we all know I love McDavid and I want to see him win a cup, but it's like does he stay? He's got 2 years left on his deal. Does he stay after this if they don't win next year? Like
so I think, and this is what I think they have to do, right? I think new coaching staff, because they need to bring in coaching staff that can elicit that kind of action in the postseason. I'm not saying head coach, I'm saying support staff.
that's
I
fair.
think the head coach is fine. I think they need additional support staff that knows how to get her done. I think we see major trades to that top line. I think you're breaking up Draisaitl and McDavid. If I had to bet money on it, Draisaitl is gone. Because what they
Okay.
realistically need to do is they need to bring in someone with some fucking cup experience. And I know Corey Perry has won a cup, but he maybe might be past his prime for the cup experience that they need.
But like if you
And
think
maybe
about
not.
he has the
Maybe
most
not.
cup experience out of anyone on both teams. He's been in the last
Right?
he's been in what 4 of
Fucking
the last
7.
5. He's won
That's what it was,
one.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
and
But I
again,
think
no
that they
one
need
can
more
say
recent experience. And I think they need recent experience from someone who is a producer. Because like we have all said time and time again, that is their biggest problem, is that they cannot produce in a postseason environment. And
Yeah.
it's crazy because they were, like, clearly they produced enough to get them to a game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, but it wasn't enough because they're missing some kind of key element, whether it is, um, the dedication to keep a strict, tight schedule, no partying, like Maul said, whether it is the ability to train harder so that they have a deeper well to dig from when they need it, whether it is the ability, like, again, they got out of hand with their penalties for a minute there and they reeled it back in, and that's what helped prompt them forward. But at that point, the damage was already done. They were down fucking 3 by that point. If they had had that conditioning, let's say, beforehand, maybe we wouldn't have gone to a game 7 and maybe they would have won. I think there's several factors that have prevented them from being the dominating team that they could be, and unfortunately, you have to make massive changes to personnel and policy and procedure before we're gonna see the right outcome, which is them bringing home a cup to Canada, which we all would love to see. It's been
Right.
a long ass time.
And they had the momentum because after Florida got the first goal, they answered
Mhm.
back within 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the second period, they gave up a goal, and then just that's like Chris and
Laid
I were
down and
talking
died.
about. They lost the wind in their sails, and that
Yeah.
was it.
Immediately.
When we saw them tie it up, we were like, this is what they need. They're gonna take out Florida now. Like,
Yeah.
and we literally said whoever gets the next goal is gonna win this because
Mhm.
of how good both teams
Yeah.
were with just making the puck go back and forth, like just playing the game,
I
you
think
know?
I think for the first time this like in the like at least in this setting for the finals, the Oilers had a problem stopping the breakaway opportunities.
Yeah.
The whole time it was kind of reversed. That was what was helping um Edmonton win those games, was the fact that they were able to get breakaways, they were able to make good passes to stop the kind of full court press style defense that the Panthers were playing. But the
Mhm.
Panthers did what they always do, and they just smother you. Like the fact that
Yeah.
no one could control the puck in the neutral zone for that long, um,
Oh, yeah.
was a big thing. But I think the one thing that for the first time in a long time we can say about the Oilers, they don't have a problem with goaltending. Stuart Skinner's the guy of the future. And if
Mhm.
anything,
Right.
Stuart Skinner is the last one to blame for their loss, because
No, and you
he saved 19 out of 21 shots.
yeah.
That's still a pretty impressive number, you
And
know.
some of those shots were
100%.
incredible.
Yeah.
Florida had a
I
lot
mean,
of great chances.
Bob won them that trophy, to be sure.
Oh
Oh,
yeah, I mean,
Like,
he showed up.
facts.
he showed up.
He stopped
Like
I
23
mean, Florida had
shots
plenty of mistakes.
I
Yeah.
don't know if he has a twin brother or something, but that was not the same goalie we saw in the last 3 games.
in the yeah.
Yeah. They must have given
Oh,
him an enema between games 6 and 7,
just
He
clean
drank
out.
he
honestly.
drank that funny juice that Bugs Bunny gave him in
Yeah.
Space Jam.
Right,
But
right.
like, also, if you like, that's another thing that I'm a little upset that Bobrovsky didn't win the Conn Smythe. Like, all respect, I want to say this off the bat. All
Oh, we're having
respect
to talk
to the
about that.
playoffs. All respect to the
Yeah,
playoff run that Connor McDavid had. And if there was anyone
100%.
else to win it, I'm okay with it. But I think we all agree that the
Mhm.
Conn Smythe should go to the winning team and the best
Yes.
player on the winning team. And that was
The team
clearly Sergei Bobrovsky.
Yeah, there's no way that Bob didn't win that. I mean, for that one game alone, and even I mean, there were some incredible saves throughout this entire, playoff run for him, in this series in particular, prior to him shitting the bed the last couple of games. Um, but there is no way in the world that the MVP, the most valuable player, should go to a losing team. Do
Hmm.
they decide it beforehand? Like, how does this I genuinely
I
question how this
don't
gets
know,
awarded because
actually.
it should not go to a losing team. You don't see that in any other sport
Nope.
Yeah.
because it is always the winning team. In football, it almost always goes to the quarterback, right? Because
Yeah.
he's the director out
Hmm.
there. Very
Because
rarely
the
do you see it
winning
to go to
team
someone
is
else.
the best team, and they proved
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that
clearly
means
by the
one of their
scoreboard.
players should be the MVP of the season because
Yeah.
they won it.
Yeah.
And again, this is
That's
no
That's the
hate to
point.
McDavid or, like, no shade to him at all, like, clearly, he's gonna sweep up in a ton of other awards. He's nominated for, like, 57 fucking things,
Right?
right?
And
The
yes,
guy's
he
a fucking
broke a
beast.
record. He broke a playoff record that was held by Wayne Gretzky, which is anytime
Yeah,
you break anything held by Wayne Gretzky, that is a massive deal. The man
right.
holds 61 different records in the NHL. That's fucking crazy.
I mean, I don't think
Um,
anymore after
but
Alex Ovechkin, but yeah, it's still
I
it's
think it's still
impressive no matter
like
what.
I think it's still like 60 or something. It's insane.
Which means he
But
used to hold even more,
yeah,
which is insane.
but the fact that they're discrediting his here's some numbers for you for Sergei Bobrovsky throughout the playoffs. 24 games he played, 16 wins, 2 shutouts, goals against average of 2.32 with a save percentage of .906.
That's insane.
That's absurd.
That's insane when you consider what the playoffs are, which is the best against the best, right?
Compared to Stuart Skinner, 23 games played, 14 wins, 1 shutout, 2.45 goals against average, and a .901 save percentage.
Which I mean, they're kinda neck and neck there.
Yeah,
Like, those numbers aren't all that far off, which again just goes to show you, uh, in my opinion, um,
this
that
really was the best two
Florida
teams in
had
the league.
well, yeah, but that Florida just had an extra edge. Those numbers are too close for me to be like, "Oh," I mean, Bob is clearly the better goalie. He was
Oh,
that night, he had 40 fucking saves.
yeah,
In comparison to 20 saves, or nearly 20, that's still really impressive, but,
yeah.
I
I-
mean, there's no way that you can award the MVP to someone who's not on the winning team. That's
Yeah.
insane.
And
Now
he
I have
didn't
a
even come out
question.
to grab it. He didn't even come out to like acknowledge it or anything.
No, he was like, "Fuck that shit."
That ties into my question. Do you think that he didn't go out to acknowledge it and grab it because A, he didn't want to because he just lost the Stanley Cup, or B, because he disagreed with him winning it?
You know what? It's
I think
probably
it's
Because
been
column A,
both.
column B.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say, knowing Connor McDavid, he's the last guy to ever want the spotlight. He's a team first guy, which is I think what
He was the
everyone
last
loves
guy off
about
the
him.
ice.
he proved
He's a
that by being the last guy off the
true
ice.
Yeah.
captain, true captain. But again, it
Mhm.
like you just lost the Stanley Cup. That's like a fucking it's like a participation medal. Like you just lost, but
Yeah.
here's this award. Um
So it's funny you say that as like a participation because I saw a meme that made me laugh today, and it showed a Stanley Cup, like the Stanley brand cups
yeah.
with the
Mhm.
Oiler logo on it, and it goes, "Well, looks like this is the only cup they're leaving with this year from
That's
Florida."
funny.
And I was
That's
like,
funny.
Fair.
"Okay, pretty good." Can you
Yeah.
imagine if the NHL gave them that? Here's your Stanley Cups.
Here's your
Right, like, that was
cups.
one of the things instead of the
I
hats and the shirts and everything.
I think the only way the NHL makes this up to Sergei Bobrovsky is he wins the Vezina.
I don't know if they can do that though, because 'cause isn't that all voted on? Like,
I mean
those things are
he's a
already in,
finalist. He's a finalist, so at least like
right?
the only way that's at least made up for him not winning the Conn Smythe is if he wins the Vezina. Because I think
But who
that's
votes for the Vezina?
the Writers Association, I
I
think,
think it's yeah, the
and
P it's something WHPL.
he's the expected front runner. I mean, we've been talking
NOP.
about I think like multiple times this year how Bobrovsky's easily the best goaltender in the league.
Right.
But again, if those
I don't
votes
think
are
that's a
already in
question.
and it's already been calculated, does Gary Bettman go in and little magic fingers it and
If he
make Bob
can,
the winner?
if he can, I imagine he would because the reaction he got probably wasn't what he expected. And I
I
get it, and you
mean,
could tell the way he was saying it. I'm sitting here looking. I'm like, I feel like Gary doesn't agree with this. Like, I
I don't
just
know
the
if I'd
way
say
he was
that.
saying it, it just didn't feel like he kind of agreed with the pick there.
I just think Gary Bettman you know what, I'm not gonna say it. I was gonna say mean things, and I'm gonna be nice
Say it.
today.
Say it.
Say it with
I
your
think
chest. When have you ever took that stance?
I think Gary Bettman is a sad little man. I think he's cowardly, and I think he's obsessed with the spotlight. And I think in that moment, he was like, I mean, the guy, right? And then he was like, "Oh, people don't like this?
No,
Now,
Oh, this
for
is
those of
not
you
good
who
for
do
me
not
as a
know,
person."
he's the commissioner of the NHL.
Yeah, I know, which is
And
why
I would
sometimes I'm
say,
like, I shouldn't talk shit about him, but then I'm like, I'm never gonna play in the NHL, so what the fuck?
although to be fair, like he's still not the worst fucking commissioner of a sports league.
No,
Because
Goodell holds that.
Goodell, yeah.
No,
Forever
Rob
will.
Manfred is hands down the worst fucking commissioner in sports.
Goodell all
Dude,
the way.
go look at Major League Baseball and how much of a fucking dumpster fire it is. Rob Manfred is the worst
mean-
thing. It's either him or Adam Silver. Adam
You're
Silver, for all the good stuff he's done for the NBA, has done way worse shit. No, the NFL has a yearly revenue of $9 billion. Roger Goodell's bad, but he's not the worst.
You're forgetting. As a Patriot
most-
fan, he's the devil.
He's the devil. Yeah,
Oh.
fair enough.
Well, go cry in
Fair
your
enough.
fucking rings. Y'all sound like Yankees fans now. Anyway. But no, I just disagree with McDavid getting it. And I had said to Mob at the beginning, I had said, I'm kind of okay with if it does happen to be McDavid, I'm kind of okay with it. I'm going to be honest, I've got a sour taste in my mouth for that. It just doesn't feel it feels like
Doesn't feel right.
No, it feels like a consolation prize. Like you just lost, but here's this.
Yeah. In a way, it's kind of low-key disrespectful to Connor. To be like, I know you really wanted the big one, buddy, but all we could afford was this little one.
This is what we can give you.
You know what I mean? Like,
I wanted a teddy
it's
bear for
disrespectful.
my birthday. What'd you get for your birthday? A rake, and it's a nice rake.
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but listen, congrats to the Florida Panthers, man. That's all I want to say to them is congrats. That's a big deal. To all the Panthers fans, as at least those of us in here, we've all at least experienced our teams winning a championship, and it's an amazing feeling. So
Yeah.
fucking enjoy it because it doesn't happen as often as you'd like.
The biggest congrats goes to me because though I did not get it right with the number of games, I did get the team right, and I was the only one to do that. So,
And
speaking of that, what was Dave's prediction, and did he hold true with getting it right?
We have it. So
tell me.
Gonna do. Here's what
I forgot about Dave's prediction.
We are going to. You guys are going to see it right now.
I was asked to record my prediction for the Cup Finals, and basically, as I've said since the start, it's either going to be the Knights or the Oilers, and the Knights failed out before we get to the Stanley Cup Finals. The Oilers are still in it, still saying it's the Oilers.
Yes, I beat Dave.
So
I beat fucking Dave.
So does this mean that Dave has
been dethroned?
Dave is now officially allowed back on
he
the
has
podcast.
been dethroned.
He's
but
been dethroned.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
I got you.
Yeah, you really were the only one to pick the Panthers. I don't know.
Let me just say, I will disappoint you next season because I will not get it right 2 seasons in a row. I'm calling that now, and that is not me hedging my bets. I truly know that I do not have that level of luck in me to do that twice in a row.
So save this as a soundbite.
Save that as a soundbite.
And we will play this next year after the Stanley Cup.
And then D
100%.
hits it again next year, and it's like fuck.
Fuck.
The curse of D.
I have to eat my own words. That's not ever fun.
Son of bitch.
I mean, I think we can all agree that yes, we wanted Canada to win. D, I know you deep down really did want Canada to win.
Yeah, it would have been a cool story.
But history was made regardless, and we saw a lot of really cool, for some people, once in a lifetime things happen this season, and it was a roller coaster, and I'm looking forward to what the 24-25 season holds.
I want to give a massive shout out to I want to give a massive shout out to Spencer Knight, who we talked about earlier in the season, entered the player assistance program. Not only was he suited up, but he got to lift the cup. Yeah. And I think after all the hardship that he went through the season, that's pretty awesome. I am upset that Nick Cousins is a fucking Stanley Cup champion because fuck
at
Nick
least
Cousins.
He didn't play.
Yeah. No, he didn't play at all. That head-hunting son of a bitch not only continues to get away with it.
Yeah.
I thought it was cool to watch Paul Maurice look at the cup for a second and then just yell, fuck yeah, and put it over his head. That guy
Yeah.
has had a tumultuous 30 years of trying to win that fucking cup.
I just loved how often the broadcast had to cut the sound because of the amount of F-bombs that were being dropped left, right,
Oh,
and
it's going
center. They kept being
crazy.
like, "You know what? We're done here. We're gonna mute it
Yeah.
just for a second." I
I
love
know
that.
because
I think
Molly
that'd be
was
good.
like, "What happened? What happened to the sound?" And I was like, "I think they're all swearing."
I
They
was
were
like,
all
wait, is there
swearing.
something wrong on your end? Because I was like, I want to hear this, and
No,
But
it was
no
just they
idea
were
then,
all
why.
swearing too much at the broadcast could not continue,
how
which is
much?
the way it should be.
Yeah.
Let's be
Oh
real.
yeah. How much do you think Blue Jackets fans and Flyers fans were screaming at their TV watching Bobrovsky hold the cup with the different team?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, man,
Oh yeah.
he went somewhere that was able to pour in the right amount of resources into him.
And both times those teams had
Good for him.
Bobrovsky, they didn't
They did
have the
not do
help.
that.
Granted,
Yeah.
And we talked about that.
Bobrovsky won the Vezina with the fucking Blue Jackets, but then swiftly left. But can we talk about how,
Yeah.
like, the first 2 years of him playing in Florida, we all bitched that that was the worst contract in the history of the NHL?
And that goes to show what we talked about a few weeks ago, where you can't just rely on the goalie. The whole team needs to
Yeah.
contribute to
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Because if you have a great goalie with a shitty team, you're not going to do
You're
anything. But if
stuck.
you
And
have a great goalie with a great team, oh my God, you win a Stanley Cup.
and you have
Weird.
to credit the defense for stopping a lot of those late onslaught shots that
Oh,
the
yeah. I
Oilers had.
mean,
They were giving up the
Yeah.
body.
yeah, Bob was standing on his head for sure, but you're exactly right. Their team sacrificed their body to make sure that it didn't go in any way possible.
Yeah, the old adage,
So, I
defense
mean,
wins
kudos.
championships, you know?
Hey, man. Ain't that the truth? Well, um, let us move on, I think, to the next topic. We're gonna close up another cup series here. Um, we, meaning me, we're closely following the AHL Cup run because my team, the Hershey Bears, were in it. Very excitingly, they won last night over the Coachella Valley Firebirds, who I do genuinely feel bad for Coachella. I think they lost. This was their back-to-back loss to the same fucking team.
No.
And that Loki sucks, and they're like 2 or 3 years into being an AHL team.
Yeah.
So it's like, "Oh, man, that just sucks that you get so close every fucking time." It was an incredible game. I did admittedly watch more of the Calder Cup than the, Stanley Cup game, um, but it was just I couldn't help myself. I wanted to feel joy as a fan for once, you know what I mean? And I so rarely get the opportunity to do that. It was a 5-4 win, in overtime. It was, an incredible game. Pierre Dubé, had a hat trick. We love to see a hat trick in a
We
cup
do.
final game. How cool is that? Matt Strome got the overtime winner, brother of all the other fucking Stromes
I
that
was
we
gonna
have.
say Baby Strome.
Baby Strome,
Baby
got the
Strome.
overtime winner. It was like a minute and 6 seconds into overtime maybe.
Also, shout out to one Hendrix Lapierre who got to keep
Hendrix
playing.
Lapierre Hendrix Lapierre, who had played up, for the Washington Capitals. At the end of the season, all those guys get returned, so he got to go back down, and he actually ended up winning, the MVP
Oh, fuck
because
yeah.
it went to the winning team as it fucking should. So Lappy got to hoist that MVP trophy, which was pretty cool. Um, let's see what else.
I
They did have, they set a record attendance for not only Hershey's Arena, but also for a playoff game as well, I believe, which is kind of incredible. The Hershey Bears are now a 13-time Calder Cup champion. This is their third time with back-to-back championships, which is just a really
that's
dope ass statistic.
insane.
Now, how long
Yeah.
have they been a franchise?
Oh, for forever.
Ooh, a while. Um, I don't
They
know.
have been a
Admittedly,
team.
I don't follow the AHL as much as I should
Yeah,
because
Uh,
Maine lost our AHL team and got an ECHL team. So now I'm
there you
following
go.
that more, you know?
Yeah. I don't remember actually. I don't think I've ever
they
really
were founded in 1932.
Okay,
there you
so
go.
they've been around a while. So they're
They've been
almost at
around
100 years.
longer than the Washington Capitals have actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
They are the longest continuously operating member of a member club of the AHL, that's still playing in its original city.
Really?
Mhm.
Yeah, because I know like
Chocolate Town,
AHL and
baby.
ECHL teams kind of get moved around a lot.
Yeah.
So that's crazy that they've been there that long.
And they've been the AHL
Consistently.
affiliate for the Capitals since 2002, 2005, 2005. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's nuts.
And we've
But
loved
like,
every second. They're not going anywhere. We're not getting rid of them anytime soon.
but like, if you think about on the flip side, for Coachella Valley, for 3 years they've only
Mhm.
been around. They've made the Calder Cup twice. That
Yeah.
says that everyone needs to be terrified of the Seattle Kraken's future.
Yeah.
I mean, even what Shane Wright was down playing in this, and he had 8 points.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's like, we all were afraid last year to see what, like, because he just didn't do anything in the
Yeah.
NHL, but it's good to see him down towards the actual in the AHL producing. So it's good to see that build up. But again, I feel like everybody needs to be a little scared of the
Well,
Kraken's future.
and funny enough, as you mentioned that, the Coachella Valley Firebirds are looking for a new head coach as their current coaching staff, Dan Bilsma and much of his team, is actually going to be the bench boss in Seattle for the Kraken.
Mm.
He has been called up. So much of that team, much of that coaching staff that did go to 2 back-to-back championship runs is going to be gone next year. So I'm really curious to see what happens to Coachella Valley next year as
What
they
a
bring a new coaching staff in.
dope logo. That logo's
They
sick.
do have a pretty dope logo. I will admit. I will agree to that. But yeah, it was an incredible game. They repeated the roar because the Hershey Bear thing is I think was it Mike Vecchione started it with the roar. It's very cute. It's hilarious. They do it all the time. And now you have Ivan Miroshnichenko, who is very Russian, speaks very little English, though he is getting better.
That's good.
He doesn't understand any of it. So like the first time someone did the roar around him, he was like, "Huh?
The fuck? What are
Like
we
what the
doing?
fuck is this?"
It's
But
always
now
kind of
he's like
cool when you
all
get to
in.
learn like those little traditions. Like last night,
Mhm.
Chris and I were talking, or when we were watching the Stanley Cups, like why is everyone in Florida throwing rats on the ice?
Yeah, rats is
Yeah.
the
Thankfully,
thing.
they explained it because I guess like back in the
That's their
day,
thing.
someone killed a rat in the locker room. That's
Yeah.
kind of been their thing, and I was like, what a
Well,
weird
that's
tradition.
like the
Right?
same in Detroit. The Red Wings
Fucking
fans throw
octopus.
octopus on the ice, or you go to Nashville, they throw catfish on the ice.
Catfish.
Like,
Yeah.
It's
how do you?
disgusting.
Yeah, but you know what? Honestly, though, you know that it's security. They'll see it, and they're probably just like, just
It depends on which one you get.
Well, they have they had the commercial where it showed
yeah,
the guy putting it on in the freaking parking lot, and he walks in,
yeah,
the security guard's like, "Yeah, I know it's there.
yeah.
Come on
Go
in."
ahead. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
And
because
I
it does
truly feel
happen.
like I feel like the security of the venues
Mhm.
favor the hometown and allow
Oh, of
certain
Oh,
things
100%. 100%.
in that
Of
they
course.
normally wouldn't allow in,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I'm
And
not
I'm
gonna
taking
lie.
this from
I would allow
experience
it.
as working as an arena security officer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also like you can see it in the fan base.
Right.
Yeah, I'd allow it. If I were security and I was checking people, if I saw someone with a catfish taped to their chest, I'm like, go ahead. You're good.
I will
Especially if I
say
knew I didn't have to clean it. Yeah, come on in.
Yeah, you're good.
I feel like I've seen with Florida specifically, they tend to throw out more fake rats,
Yeah, no one
which I
throws real
appreciate
rats,
rather
but
than
they
a
all
real
throw
fucking octopus or a real catfish.
True.
You know what I mean?
hockey.
Like if I had to pick one, give me
Hockey
fake
fans are
rats any day.
crazy. Hockey fans are crazy.
You
Dude,
think they
you're telling
collect the
me.
rats at the end and then like put them in the gift shop? Like this is a
Maybe.
Stanley Cup rat.
A lost and found rat. Yeah, just a box. Well, like, you think they do that with
That's
hats. When
something.
people throw hats on the ice, they actually do have like a lost and found, and you have a certain amount of time
Yeah.
to like go collect your hat.
But like
Otherwise,
imagine having
they
to like sift
donate
through
them.
all those hats. You know what I mean? Like it's just in one big ass bucket and you're just like, this one, nope. This one, nope.
See,
I
that's
say
why I
wash
would.
them, clean them, and donate them.
That's what they
Yeah.
do. That's what if you don't collect them after a certain time, they do donate them. I would buy a specific hat and just
Pretty cool.
yeah.
You also
Oh
have a
yeah.
weird
No way I'm
hat
taking off my hat
collection.
and throwing that. I would bring an extra hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring
I
an
don't wear
extra
hats
hat.
though.
Yeah, I do because I'm bald.
Doesn't really work. Fair. Fair. You need that. Yeah, that little extra
Protect
cushion.
protect the
Some
Yeah.
skull.
warmth.
Yeah,
right?
mainly from the sun, because my pasty ass.
Fair.
Well, since we just mentioned that the Hershey Bears have been around for almost 100 years, now I feel like it's maybe a good time to mention that the Washington Capitals will be celebrating their 50th anniversary this season in the 2024-2025 season. They just recently released their patch of and their logo. It's very cool. They're trying to combine a lot of different elements from the years. They went with the original Washington Capitals red and blue color, which were not as dark. I don't know how to describe them, but it's very retro looking. So very, very cool. We'll see that they have the backwards stick to make the L in between the 50. And then I don't remember, they came up with a slogan, and I don't fucking remember what it is, which is not good for them. I probably should remember that.
Okay.
I'll figure it out eventually. A legacy in all caps. That is their tagline for this,
Okay.
for marking their 50th season as an NHL team.
That's catchy,
So they're
marketable.
yeah, I think so. They're going to do a bunch of stuff. For one, their center ice logo is going to be repainted to be the 50th logo. They are going to have a lot of programming, including a Caps 50th celebration kickoff. They're going to do an alumni weekend where former players will have the opportunity to reconnect with former teammates and fans. And there's going to be like a whole alumni game at MedStar Iceplex, which is where the Caps
Nice.
practice. They're going to do an Eras night. Shout out to Taylor. They stole this idea from you. They will host several Eras nights throughout the season, each celebrating a specific time period of Caps history from 1974 to present day, providing fans with a nostalgic journey through the team's evolution. So, like, it'll be one night will be the 70s era, and they're going to have special guests that played, if they're still alive, in that
In the
era,
70s.
come and be a part of the ceremony and whatever. And they're going to do that for each of them.
Right.
Um, there's going to be special programming on our very official exclusive Monumental Sports Network.
Ooh.
They're gonna do stuff to honor the original season ticket holders, which I think is pretty dope because I love honoring fans like that, especially people who bought in early and quick.
Yeah.
And then there's also a microsite that's going to have all the information of the programming and things like that. So you can sign up to receive information if you're interested. Go to washcaps.com/caps50th to see that microsite. But I love teams being around.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's awesome.
I just love that.
Well, and it's cool that they always do something special because, like, last year
Hmm.
was, I think, what, the Bruins' 100 year anniversary.
This year
Yeah,
was the Bruins'
Yeah,
100 year.
and I know, I mean, they're local teams, so I've been to. I mean, I was in Boston today, and it's cool when you go to their merch and it's the
yeah.
old school logo, and I'm glad that they do stuff like that,
Yeah.
Hmm.
because it's awesome to kind of like as newer fans come up see kind of like the history and the
The
lineage as
history.
they talk
I
about it over
know.
the course of the season.
Yeah,
And I mean, to make it to 50 years is a huge achievement.
I know Anaheim celebrated 30 years last year.
yeah.
Um,
The
you
Coyotes
know.
will never celebrate 50 years, unfortunately,
Nope.
because of fucking Alex Marullo. But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, I think it's awesome, and I think it's especially cool to bring back the players who were instrumental in those seasons.
Mhm.
Like, Mike Gardner has always been around, we've done a lot of stuff with him over the years, but he'll for sure be coming back to be part of these celebrations. You're gonna see a lot of old names. I really, really hope that the Caps do something this year incredibly special for Black History Month to honor
Yeah.
the history of Black players that the Caps organization has had.
I was saying
Um
they've had a bunch of them too. So
yeah, I mean, especially we know I love DSP, Devontae
yes,
Smith
I'd
Pelly,
say we both have a lot of
king of
love
my
for
heart.
DSP. I love Devontae Smith
Yeah,
Pelly, former Duck.
absolutely. So I hope that they do a lot with that because they do have a history of at least some diversity. As we all can agree, I think NHL needs more diversity in its players. Um, but you start somewhere and you acknowledge it, and then you create initiatives to push for more. And I really
Yeah.
hope to see them do that this year.
Yeah. And
So
by this time you guys are seeing this, the Anaheim Ducks will have released their new logo
I
and
know
their
I
new
wish they could have done it tonight.
uniforms. We didn't get a chance to touch on it last week, but the LA Kings released their new logos, and it's a return to their 90s fast looking logo. I'm here for it. Listen, if
Yeah.
the one thing that California teams did right in the 90s was their logos, all three of them were
Amen.
fire. Like the
Yeah.
Sharks original logo is amazing. The Ducks were crushing it for forever. The Kings had a great logo in the 90s. So I'm excited to kind of get that nostalgia feel back.
Mhm.
Um, and everyone's been asking me, like everyone I know they're like, oh yeah, you must hate the Kings logo. I was like, no, the only thing I shit on with the Kings, they have really boring
That's
fucking colors. But
That's true.
I was like, that logo's sick. As long
But
as
you
they
know
get
what?
away from the chrome helmet. They need to stop with the
They
chrome
do.
helmet.
They
I
need
hate
to
that.
eliminate that
It's
permanently.
so bad.
I will say shout out to the retro jersey thing that happened. I think that's why we're seeing so many
Reverse
teams
retro
return to
changed a lot.
form
Yeah.
with older style logos because they realize that that's the fans fucking love it. Whether it's just because it's the nostalgia, I don't necessarily agree with. I think that even without the nostalgia of having been a Caps fan in the
Yeah.
the 90s and even a Ducks fan too, because God did I love the Mighty Ducks movies.
Oh my god. And those
Even
uniforms
without that
then?
nostalgia,
Fuck.
dude,
The
so
eggplant
fucking
and
fire.
teal, bro. Mm.
Yeah.
But I
Like,
think the
even
more
without that
complicated
though.
logos just looked better. And
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden everyone started going like very simplistic logos that
Yeah.
were kind of just like,
and mostly,
eh,
like, just word marks too, so it's just the name
yeah,
of the team, and it's like, that's
Yeah.
fucking
Well, I
lame.
mean,
and it's like
speaking of the
that's so
Coyotes, they
cool.
did that too. They went back to their old 90s logo for the
The
last couple
Kachina,
years.
yeah,
Then they went back to the full Kachina jerseys.
And it
yeah.
Um,
looked cool, and
and it looked
It
awesome.
it was a
should.
very like intricate logo that had a lot of history with it,
Even the
Yeah.
and it
Penguins a few
represented a
years
lot
ago.
of different aspects of the Arizona culture.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, even the Penguins a few years ago, their current jerseys
Yeah.
look like their 90s jerseys when they were winning Stanley Cups with Yager and Lemieux. Like, they
Oh,
made that full
Yager.
change. As long as they can bring back the gradient jersey that they had, that shit was sick. But no, I'm all for this. And I
Yeah,
hope that with the
same.
Caps, we at least get, like, some sort of alternate jersey that is, like, a nod to their old
Mhm.
school uniforms, because I kind of liked their old school jerseys.
I mean, both so they've really only had, like, 3 major eras jersey-wise. You had the original with the stars coming
Yeah.
across, that was, like, a pretty cool fade,
Give me
and then
that
you had
blue,
the
the
black and
screaming
gold.
eagle. That's what I love. The black, gold, and blue.
Yeah,
Bring me
the
the
Skriegle.
screaming eagle
Skriegel.
forever. I
I bet
fuck
they'll
with
bring
that
it back
logo.
because part of the anniversary year and the
Mhm.
milestone is they'll probably have the legacy jerseys in their pro shop.
Yeah.
Well, the black and blue and gold Screaming Eagle retro jersey was the highest selling retro jersey.
Oh, it was the best. It was the best
It was
reverse
so
retro,
good.
hands
So I
down.
think that they fully have to plan on bringing that back, like, as our 3rd, because this was the last year, and I do know they're gonna do something special, because I do know that this year was the last year that we had our alternate blue W jerseys that were just
Mhm.
like the Washington monuments making each thing of the
I mean,
W,
they were pretty cool, but
which
they could do
that
better.
was
They
fucking
could do
lame.
so much better.
The
You're like
blue
these
Ws, the whole fan base hated. We lost in them so much too that, like, we all just believed that they're cursed. So everyone was so happy to see those go.
That's fair.
But
That's fair.
Real quick, since we are on a Caps kick, we didn't mention it earlier, but Caps Friendly or Cap Friendly has been sold to the Washington Capitals. So we did
Yes.
want to mention that super quickly. It is unfortunate because Cap Friendly was one of the superior sites for determining what a team's cap hit would look like, how the contracts were broken out. But apparently the NHL super hated it. And they super hate all of those sites because
It's
they don't think that
bullshit.
they think it's quote unquote proprietary information and they
Yeah.
think it should be under lock and key. And the Caps had been using it for a long time anyway, as another component to their internal
Every
system,
team has been
and
using it,
every team
apparently.
has been. Yeah, apparently only 9 teams out of the 32 teams in the NHL have an internal salary cap infrastructure. So they're all
Woo!
scrambling now that cap friendly is going down. It will stay up through the draft, and then after that, it will be closed permanently for public use. The Washington Capitals also onboarded 3 of the top members of the cap-friendly team, which is brothers Jamie Ryan and Christopher Davis, with the only one out of those 3 that has not had NHL job experience being Jamie Davis. So the other 2 brothers have a history of knowing, what's what in the NHL world, and so they are going to come on with, into the Caps organization to help continue keeping those stats going forward. Um, it sucks. I
It's
know Chris is
dumb.
really bummed
It's
that it's going
so
away.
fucking dumb.
It's so dumb, but I think we can all point our anger at Gary Bettman, as I do with everything else in life.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
Um, he
Fuck
both hated
Gary.
it and other GMs around the league hated that that information was out there because again, sometimes it caught them in a bad position.
Listen,
But
I'm a
I think
numbers
someone,
guy. I love
yeah,
the ability to do that shit. And the fact that, oh, it shouldn't be public knowledge, you know what? That's great for your fans because that allows
hmm
more conversation for your fan base to talk about
yeah,
your sport. Like, I don't understand what the fuck we're doing here right now. Like, why is this a
yeah.
problem?
And
And
you should
the
want more
fact that,
transparency too.
yeah, exactly. And the fact that only 9 teams in the NHL have an infrastructure to pay attention, how the fuck are you making sure you're not over the cap? This is why we're finding all these cap problems. Like, what?
Well, and honestly, if I were the Players Association, I'd be pissed because
Yeah.
sites like Cap Friendly allow for these players to bargain for the best contract possible for them
Yeah.
by comparing themselves to other players with similar stats, both in terms of the longevity of their career and also the amount of points they put up. Because that is one of the things that Cap Friendly did. It would tell
Mhm.
you all of their fucking plus minus games played, this, that, the third. And so I think if anyone should be pissed about the sale and should have been trying to block it, it should have been the Players Association. I think that that should
Yeah.
be their job. And I think that the Players Association should maybe look into buying a site for themselves and making sure that
Right.
that information stays public and
Yeah.
stays available to these players so they can better negotiate for themselves.
Yeah, and I mean, there's sites out there. I've already found 3 of them
Oh,
today,
100%.
so
There
I'm not
are.
super
There
worried.
it's
I'll
never
find
gonna
it, but that's
die.
dumb. That's so
Yeah.
stupid. Who are you
Yeah.
to tell us what we shouldn't know about players and shit? Like, who
Yeah.
is Gary Bettman to say that? Like, I get it. I understand from like a business perspective, you don't want
Mhm.
all your dirty laundry out in the open, but at the same time, if I want to go
Have
look at
less.
if I want to go
Have
look
less
at,
dirty
let's
laundry.
say, Luke Kunin's contract, I'm gonna go Google that shit, and I want to see
Yeah.
that. I don't want someone. I don't want the commissioner being like, "Well, we removed the site because we feel like you shouldn't know that." I'm a sports nut. I want to know these fucking
Mhm.
numbers. Tell me the numbers.
All
Give
I
me
can
the
I never.
say
information.
huh?
Hmm?
Just give me the information, please.
Yeah.
I know.
All I can say is that while I'm sad that the site has gone away, I am happy that the CAPS organization are keeping on 3 of the founders
Yeah.
of the site to continue running it from inside of the Capitals organization, because I don't think it's a fair deal to them to just have them sell their IP and then
Yeah.
be done with it. I think they put a lot of work into this site over the years, and so it's only fair that they stick around. So happy to see that at the very least.
I can check every player's contract current info on fucking NHL 24. Are you gonna shut EA Sports down too?
Right.
Fucking
I'd like to see them
assholes.
try. That'd be fucking hilarious. Well, speaking of assholes, Chris, did you want to talk about the reports coming in about the Coyotes ownership?
Yes. So, reports have been coming in, and this has been confirmed through the Associated Press with ESPN. Former owner of the Arizona Coyotes, Alex Merlo, is walking away from the ownership. He's walking away from the ownership group. This
Mhm.
comes no surprise after recently the Arizona State Land Department canceled the plans for the 68.5 million dollars needed um for the land that they were going to build a new stadium on to try to bring a team back. um Listen, this doesn't break my heart in any way. Alex Merlo
Nope,
is one of the reasons that the Arizona Coyotes are now playing in Salt Lake City. So
100%.
I agree. Biz talked about this uh,
Oh, I
on
didn't see it.
yeah, this was when the announcement happened. He talked about it on actually Pat
Oh, right.
McAfee's show. Shout out to McAfee. But he talked about how he would like to see eventually Arizona get another team, but he also said he
Mhm.
would prefer with different ownership, which makes sense.
Correct.
A lot of the problems were because of ownership making terrible decisions financially.
Well,
They
and
were
not just
kicked
that.
out of their arena in the middle of the season because he owed like $1 million in fucking like rent or whatever.
there was a bunch of, like, shady shit he did with the players as well, and not only that, but when they were kicked out of their arena, um, they were contacted to come get the banners of, like, retired players' jersey
Mhm.
numbers and things like that, and they had no interest.
Yeah.
No one from the Coyotes organization returned the calls. So they went in the fucking dumpster. Can you imagine being a player, giving your blood, sweat, and tears to an organization, thinking that they cared enough about you to have your jersey fucking retired, which we all know is kind of a big fucking deal,
Especially
and then to
because you
have
know they made a lot of money off of you just to be like,
yeah,
meh, meh.
and then have your shit show up in the trash. Now, luckily, someone saved it from the trash and gave it back. I forget the player's name, so please forgive me. It's been a while since I looked at this article. Um, but he gave it back to the player. He was like, "This is yours. I mean, it's your
Yeah, it was
fucking
Ty.
jersey,
I'm pretty
bro."
sure it was Ty Domi.
Yes, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's just shitty, and that's on Alex Marullo,
Yeah.
100%. He is the leader of that organization, and he should have given a half of a shit. So, good fucking riddance. Don't let the door hit you where the good Lord split you. See you never, asshole.
Yeah, I mean he retained the name for the Coyotes logo and trademark.
Mhm,
So everything else, like all franchise history and everything, is with the Utah Hockey Club. I hopefully
yes.
they get a better name. But I
Eventually.
wanna give some love to Ryan and Ashley Smith, who have done a great job with the Utah Jazz, who are
Mhm,
desperately trying to grow Salt Lake City into a bigger sports sit town. I mean, obviously with the Jazz getting Utah Hockey Club, this is the first year for the Utah Archers in the Premier Lacrosse
mhm.
League. Like they're really trying to build that portfolio, and I think this is a spectacular move. Um, I
Yeah,
really like, and it sounds really fucked up to say, but I'm really happy that Alex Marullo is walking away because listen,
yeah.
it's okay to admit when it doesn't work, and it didn't
Mhm.
work.
It
It
didn't
worked
work.
for a little bit, but the state clearly doesn't give a shit. Either the
No.
state does not want that team or they want anyone else but him to own the team.
And that is my feeling, is that they want anyone else but him. I think the state wasn't willing to invest money, billions of dollars into building an infrastructure that he wasn't gonna then pay the bill on going
Yeah.
forward.
Right.
His track record proves that he could not be trusted. So I do strongly believe that we will see hockey come back to Arizona. The fans want it. The fans were pissed, not only at his treatment of players over the years, not only at the getting shunned and put into fucking Mullet Arena for a season.
But
They're pissed at all of that. I think that the state of Arizona was pissed at all of that,
the
and I think that
fans,
somebody will come along and be like, "Hey, I've got money. I
yeah,
paid my bills. I can show them to you. Let's bring hockey back to this state."
I feel like the fans are also a little bit to blame though, because you wanted your team to stick around, you got to show up to games. And no one was showing up to games. And I understand not wanting to support a terrible owner, but when you don't support the team, this stuff happens.
It
We
is kind of a
saw
double-edged
this.
sword.
Yeah, we saw this in
It
Winnipeg.
is.
When Winnipeg left and they went and they moved to they moved Arizona ironically. Um but when the Jets left, Winnipeg
Yeah,
fans were upset and it's like, well, you got a second chance. Make the most of it. And the Winnipeg Jets sell out most of their
I've
games
been fine.
now.
Yeah.
But
Which may
it's
be what very well happens here. And it's one of those things, it's like I can't fault their fans for standing on morals, for standing on
right.
principle.
I get it. I get
If
it.
they can't be fucked with the ownership, the only way to get ownership out is to take the money out of their fucking pocket.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's what they
And
did, and it
give it
sucks
to the
because that means that they
Mormons.
fucked over their players and they fucked over hockey in their state by doing
Yeah.
that. But what other options do they have? Because we can't call a vote as to the, um, adequacy of general management.
Right. And I
That's
mean,
not in our power as fans. Although if
I
you're like the Green Bay Packers and their fans do run their organization, I think more organizations should be like that because they clearly, I mean, uh, have they won a cup or not a cup, a Super Bowl
Super Bowl.
in any recent years? No,
it's
but their
been
fans are
it's
fucking
yeah, it's
happy.
been like 2012, 2013. But like
But either way, their fans are fucking happy, and that's really all
yeah.
that matters. If your fan
Yeah.
base is content and you're still making the fucking money, then we're good to go.
I mean, I'm happy to hear that at least the Tucson Roadrunners will be staying in
Mhm.
Arizona as Utah's NHL or AHL affiliate.
AHL.
I'm kind of down with the idea of them changing their names to the Arizona Coyotes, but like I do at least love that pro hockey in a sense will be staying because the desert
Yeah.
Arizona deserves a team. Everyone loved the Coyotes logo, like it's iconic, but like you know,
Yeah.
Well, and here's the other thing: is like Salt Lake City is what 6 hours from Flagstaff, Arizona. It's not
yeah,
that far away. Like you can still go support your team. You
yeah,
know,
make
it,
it
You
a
have to
weekend
plan it a
trip.
little bit more, yeah.
Yeah, make it a weekend trip.
you're gonna see a lot more attendance at the Roadrunners game. Everyone's gonna be
Yeah.
all for that.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
and hopefully they show that they want hockey, professional like
yeah,
Mhm.
NHL quality hockey back in the state by showing up to those games and supporting that team and helping
Yeah,
that organization grow.
yeah.
absolutely.
And Salt Lake City's another medium market.
Mhm.
It's not a huge market. It's a medium-ish market size. So a lot of people have been saying, well, the NHL is just trying to downsize their small market teams to go to their large big markets. And it's like, no, that's
No.
actually not what's happening.
They're trying to
That's
grow
not what's happening at
mid-market
all.
teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this was again another win for the NHL. A small market team is your champion.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Mhm.
So I'm cautiously optimistic for the
Yeah.
future of hockey in Arizona. Because again,
Oh,
I know
agreed.
what this is like. I'm from Connecticut. I remember when the Whalers left, and we've
I
been
think
chasing
Marullo
that
walking
dragon.
away is the best outcome
I agree.
for this situation. I think we're gonna
I agree.
see some pretty cool stuff. Um, all right, let's go into some happy news before we get into like the sad fucking news. Chris, you want to tell us about the Hockey Hall of Fame inductees that were just announced literally today?
Earlier today, yeah, the NHL released at about 3:50 this afternoon the seven individuals that will be inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Pavel
Mhm.
Datsuk and Shea Weber are two that are obvious names that have been around in recent time, as well as Jeremy Roenick.
Mhm.
Let's see who else? Former general manager David Poyle. And who else? Oh, former U.S. women's national team members Natalie Darwitz and Chrissy Wendell Pole.
Mhm.
As well as there's one other person too. I'm
Paul,
gonna.
the general manager.
Oh yes, Colin
David
Campbell,
Paul,
David
yeah,
Paul, Colin Campbell.
and Colin
Uh,
Campbell.
so I mentioned that I feel like the NHL missed a cool opportunity to induct Pavel Datsuk and Henrik Zetterberg together. They're
Mm.
both very famous for playing in their time with the Detroit Red Wings, winning Stanley Cups. Um, it makes me kind of sad to think that that's not going to happen. But listen, everyone on this list has earned it. Shea Weber had a long career. Jeremy
Yeah.
Roenick's been waiting a little bit. Jeremy Roenick has had an opportunity to get in for a few years now. Um, I'm very excited. Also, awesome to see some women get inducted at the same time too. As much
Yeah,
as we
love that.
talk about women's hockey here, I am
Mhm.
super in. But listen, Pavel Datsuk is going to highlight the class, and
Yeah.
I don't think we need to talk about his stats because hockey fans know who Pavel Datsuk is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I listen. It's so hard, right? Because you have so many guys who are so many guys, gals, and other who have a laundry list of accomplishments, and there were so many
Mhm.
players that were first year eligible that I was like, you should be in. You should be in. But you got to
Yeah.
narrow it down to seven. You got to narrow it down to seven, and that's real
Yep.
difficult. Um,
Yeah.
but I'm happy with this
Which is
class.
tough.
I love seeing. I'm happy for Jeremy Roenick. Is really what it is. I'm super happy for Jeremy.
Which they can actually narrow it down to 8. They're allowed to it's a maximum of 4 retired male players, 2 retired female players, 2 builders, or 1 builder and 1 retired official inducted in any
Yes.
single year. So they only inducted 3 men this year,
Yeah.
not meeting that max full, but it's because they have to get at least 75% of the vote from the
Right.
selection committee. So it is tough competition. I to my understanding, it's not a ranked voting system, meaning like, okay, I really want to see so and so get in, but if so and so doesn't get in, then
Yeah.
I'd like to see so and so. So that's why that 75% can be hard to hit and can be hard with all four. I think in years, if we see Sidney Crosby and Alex Ovechkin retire at the same time, that's a no-brainer. Those two are getting
There's no
it, and
way
I
that they
think
get in
there's
together. Yeah, there's no way that they don't get in together.
yeah, I think they have to. Well, unless they retire in vastly different years. But I think that this, if I were the select committee, I would hold off until they're both eligible due to retirement and induct them together.
That
Just
has to
because of
happen that way.
the coolness of the media surrounding that. I mean, that's
The
gonna be
two
incredible.
players that
Well, and they have great history
single-handedly
together.
saved hockey.
Yeah,
Well, they
Yeah.
like we've talked about on
right.
here before. They both saved the NHL because they came
100%.
right out of that lockout, and just
Mhm.
the league itself was going down, and the notoriety of those two players changed everything.
Yeah. Their rivalry turned friendship as well because now they like actually text each other.
They're like
I don't
actually
think they quite
friends.
hang out,
Like
but like they're actually friendly now.
no, but Crosby was at Ovi's wedding, and like
Yeah.
they're friends.
Mhm.
But I like again, it's this is such a hard job being on the committee for like a Hall of Fame because
Yeah.
think of all of the people that you have available that you could put in, like people
Right.
that are eligible. It's a tough job. It's a real tough job. So
Mhm.
respect. Respect for
Yeah,
the class.
absolutely. And I think that they are hosting their induction ceremony on November 11th in Toronto.
Yes.
So I'm sure we'll talk about more about that next season when we have like particulars, the where, the when, the how, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's pretty cool news. Now for the saddest news. Not all of it's sad, but in a not so surprising move, the Boston Bruins have dealt goalie Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators, thus breaking up the infamous Ullmark Swayman goalie hug that any fan of hockey loves. I
I
think you can hate the
know.
Boston Bruins and still love
I'm a miss
Swaymark.
the bromance. I
I
loved
mean,
those two.
they're still gonna be bros that are very much in love with each other.
Oh, they're still gonna
They
hug
just
every
can't
time
do
they
it on the
play.
same
Yeah.
100%. But it is kinda it's low key devastating, and I think this is one of the things that we don't talk enough about in sports, is that when you get dealt to another team, like, your whole life changes. Not only do you have to move you and your family to a whole new city where you
Country
might
in
know
this case.
very true, great point, yeah. Um, Not only do you only know people in the sense of like a, "Oh, yeah, we've seen each other around the league," kind of a thing, maybe we train at the same places in the off season kind of a thing, but, like, you don't have friends there.
Right.
You have nothing. You have to go get all new doctors, granted it's given to you by the team, but you have to find new school systems, you have to find a new house, you have to do all of this shit, and also you get moved, in this case, thousands of miles away from your best fucking friend, and as someone who is separated by thousands of miles from my best fucking friend, that shit sucks.
Same.
Like, it sucks
Same.
ass.
Yeah,
And think
I
of
know.
how cool that hug is gonna be now when they play
Yeah.
against each
When they
other
yeah.
and they end the game with it.
Oh,
Because you know what they're
100%.
going to do. When they
They're
do the
yeah,
lineup at
absolutely.
the end, that's how they're gonna end it.
Yeah, 100%. They have to. I think they should
So
start the game with the hug between those 2, honestly.
here's here's the situation with this. Jeremy Swayman is a restricted free agent. As of
Mhm.
July 1st, he is an RFA. Linus has 1 year left on his deal. This is almost exactly 1 year to the day that we saw an awful contract.
Oh, yeah.
Corpusalo has a 5 year, $20 million contract. Jonas
Mhm.
Corpusalo is a solid goaltender. He's not a top goalie. Linus Ullmark won the fucking Vezina trophy last year.
Yeah.
Like
Rightfully so, Olmark's a beast.
it's one of those. I feel like they were trying to a get out of that contract and b build up that team because let's be
Yeah.
real, Ottawa is a disappointment, and you couldn't afford to
Yeah.
pay both goalies if you were Boston. I understand the move. The only acceptable piece out of all of this is that first round
Yeah.
pick. There is no other pick that is acceptable for someone the
Yeah.
caliber of Linus Ullmark. Like hands down,
Right.
hands down.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean and for it to be a 2024 first round pick is important too.
Yeah, that they're gonna be
You know
able
what I
to
mean? It's not
play with
next year,
that this
it is
weekend. Yeah,
immediate.
yeah,
And Ottawa retains 25% of Corpus Hall's salary as well.
right.
But
Say that
it's
again.
just tough. It's just tough. I know that this is life, this is professional sports, but it makes
It's
me sad
business.
on the inside.
Yeah, yeah.
But the
And I'm
other
sure it
thing
makes them
too
sad too.
is Ottawa's not that far from Boston.
No, it's
True.
really
You
not.
know, I mean,
As a crow
Ottawa,
flies, that's true.
right? I mean, they're like probably an 8-hour drive away from each other,
Yeah.
Right.
so it's not horrible. You know,
Yeah. I will say, I do hope that Allmark found out about it in a better way than Darcy Kemper, because Darcy Kemper of recent Washington Capitals goaltending was traded last week. And he found out while he was
Got
in
out
the
of the
fucking shower.
shower.
His wife
Thought I
came
was
in
in
and
the
was like,
shower.
"Babe, I think we've just been traded." He was like, "What?
What?
imagine
For real?" Yeah, and I think she found
That's
out when it hit the news wire, so to speak.
when he slips on the soap and then all of a sudden his coat is
You
over. Like,
yeah, because he broke his fucking back.
Yeah, so I do hope that Olmark found out in a better way,
Well,
than
I know he
Kemper.
almost got dealt at the trade deadline,
Correct. There
but
was a lot of talk around then.
it was due to geographical issues, which ergo just meant he didn't want to be a part from Swayman, and he said that.
Yeah,
So like
yeah,
I feel like at this point it was inevitable. If you've been attempted to be traded multiple times,
mhm.
it means that it's probably
It's
best
just
to
gonna
allow the
happen.
trade to happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well.
Chris, were there some other big trades? I don't know if you were gonna talk about the Kemper trade and I just stole
Um
your thunder. My bad.
no. So there's actually a few things to talk about here. The San Jose Sharks received Jake Wallman from the Detroit Red Wings for
Hmm,
future considerations.
hate that.
He had 21 points in 63 games this season. Wallman spent a little bit of time injured. He's got 2 years left on his 3-year contract, which is about 3.1 average per year. I listen, it's a depth move, and if there's a team that needs
Mhm.
depth help, it's the fucking Sharks
Yeah,
because
after last year.
they're about to draft Macklin Celebrini this weekend with the number 1 pick, and in order to avoid the Connor Bedard situation, um, give the kid some talent around him to help him. And Jake Wallman's a solid player. He's not going to cost you games. Um, so I'm here for that. Also a couple new signees. Um, it looks like we have a signing with Dylan DeMello has signed a 4-year, $19.6 million contract with the Winnipeg Jets
Wow.
to stay. He had 31 points in 82 games this season, and he had 1 assist in 5 playoff games. I I mean that's a smart move. Ink up your talent, as well
Mhm.
as Casey Middlestat has signed a 3-year extension with the Colorado Avalanche.
Oh,
He had 57 points this season. He was traded at the deadline by the Buffalo Sabres for Bowen Byram, which we talked about. We were actually pretty shocked at
you
that trade.
have.
Um,
Yeah.
Shout out to Casey again, another great talent from the Sabres, getting help somewhere else. And he played pretty well for Colorado. Uh,
Mhm.
so he had 10 points after he was traded. So that's nice, not too bad. 9 points in the playoffs.
Right.
So good for him. But yeah, I didn't see
Any
any of that come
retirements?
across. I haven't seen any retirements.
Okay. Nice.
I know that Corey Perry said that regardless of how the Stanley Cup Finals went, he is not done. He said he
the
doesn't
Good.
feel
Perry,
well. He doesn't. He's 39 and said he doesn't feel like he says he feels like he's 25, like he could play a lot longer. And I mean, he did have a goal in the Stanley Cup Finals, so I mean, it's not like he's relegated to a fourth line situation, but like
Right.
there's still some gas left in the tank. I mean, why not keep playing if you feel good? You know.
If you feel good and your team feels like you're contributing enough, then yeah.
Yeah, I don't
And
see
it
a
might
problem with
be
it
that we've
there.
talked about he contributed in leadership potentially in the locker room, as a veteran. You would hope that he's doing that.
Oh yeah, I would very much so hope. And again, like we had said, he was the only player on that team to have a Stanley Cup.
Not no more. Now they
Yeah.
all got one. Well,
Well,
no,
yeah, because he plays for
sorry,
the Oilers,
Edmonton.
and
Yeah,
now the Oilers are not. I mean, the Florida Panthers really only had one. I mean, Carter Verhaeghe, that was it.
I do feel like Perry would fit in Florida, though. To be clear,
How much you want to bet he goes to Florida next year?
You think
dude,
so?
I would not be surprised at all.
That would
I don't know who
that
you would go there for, like what that trade would look like, but
Well,
I can
I believe
see,
he's a free agent at the end of the year. So
yeah, I could see Corey Perry in Florida
I mean, it'd be
for
worth
sure.
it. I mean,
Yeah.
we were talking about it the other day. Like, you think about it, like Florida's one of the very few places where the hockey team can go to practice, get out of practice, and then go to the beach year round.
Right.
well,
Yeah.
and now no one can talk shit about Florida hockey because both teams have won a Stanley Cup in the last 5 years.
Yeah.
3 of the
with
last
Tampa Bay
5
and
Stanley
too,
Cups have been a Florida
Yeah.
team.
which is crazy. Why the fuck do they get two?
What are they drinking in the water down there?
All right.
Well, I mean, one
They're
in
just
North
wrestling all
Florida,
them
one in South
alligators.
Florida. Yeah. Even more than that. Think about 3 years in a row. Every year since 2020 has had a Florida team in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Mm-hmm. Crazy.
That's an insane stat.
It is. But hey, they have management that knows what they're doing, knows how
It's
to put a
working
team
out. And I
together,
mean,
top to bottom.
Tampa had, or the Florida had to beat Tampa in the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs to continue on, and they
Yeah.
handed them. So I mean,
I know that was one of my favorite wins of the series.
now the big question of the offseason: does Steven Stamkos stay? Do they keep
don't know.
Steven Stamkos, or do they do him dirty?
For their fan base's sake, I hope they keep him. That man deserves to retire in the Lightning organization.
He's done. He's got every
However,
franchise record.
yeah. However, having seen some of what we've seen over the last year, I would not be the least bit surprised if they do him dirty in the name of bringing home another cup.
Yeah, that would be fair.
Yeah,
It would be sad to see him have to leave, you know.
me too.
Yeah.
Especially, like, I mean, a lot of this, and this goes back into the Swayman-Ulmer conversation too. A lot of these moves, while I get that they're great for the organization, either financially, contractually, whatever, but boy, does it suck for the fan base. And your fan base really is who you need to be pleasing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I've seen a ton of really melodramatic TikToks about the Allmark trade.
Yeah.
The fan base is not thrilled by it. I think they'll live. This is not a mortal wound to the fan base.
You still have
But
Jeremy
as
Swayman. Like,
true. But I think a Stamkos trade, especially if it's not something that he is actively seeking out, I think that is a mortal wound to the
he's
fan base.
34 and had a 40-goal season this year.
Yeah.
Like, he had 81 points this year. I don't know
Yeah,
why you
that's not
wouldn't
bad at all.
re-sign him.
Uh,
He's your captain.
Go
Although
captain, my captain.
they have a history of trading captains. So
Yeah.
McDonough,
hell.
LeCavalier, St. Louis, like
And I mean, it wouldn't be the first time we've seen it. Look at everything that the Chicago organization has done.
you know, Corey Perry should
Just
be
ever.
thanking the Chicago Blackhawks organization for what happened this year.
For releasing him from
Yeah.
that tragedy. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Maul, was there anything that you wanted to mention?
So I know going into this, we didn't have anything on the injury report, but I did find something interesting while we were recording the show, and I'm gonna butcher his last name, but Leon Driscoll.
Draisaitl.
Trisettle. Okay, I knew I was gonna butcher it. Apparently played through the Stanley Cup final with a broken rib and broken finger, and
I mean, that makes sense.
spent almost
Wow.
23 minutes on the ice.
Yeah, that makes
That-
sense.
I hate that so much. I'm gonna be
Did that
honest.
have something to do with their performance? And
I think it
how the
very
hell
well
did he
could
break
have.
a rib? Where
Yeah.
did that
He
come
did
from?
take a good
He took
shot
some
a
pretty
couple
aggressive
times
hits.
early on.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is par for the course for the NHL playoffs, right? Like, how many times do we talk about in the offseason every player that's played through injuries? Who was it earlier in the playoffs that got knocked out first round? It was like, yeah, I've been
TJ
playing with like a broken foot. And I was
TJ
like,
Oshie.
Yeah, that's why I was
Right.
like,
A
I was like,
broken hand,
"What?"
yeah.
Yeah, broken hand.
Entire hand was broken.
So I mean, it's sad to hear that because it's like, could they have won the cup if he was at full strength?
I
Yeah,
mean, I
this is
think
my
it could have been a
thing.
factor.
I hate that athletes do this. I get it. I really do, but I fucking hate it. I don't think you should be putting your body on the line this much for fucking anything. Playing with a broken rib is so dangerous because depending on how broken it is, you can puncture a
To
fucking lung
puncture a
Like,
lung.
and die
I
on
mean,
the ice.
like
Yeah.
your
Like,
broken
that's not
finger is like, oh,
exaggeration.
okay, like tape it up, whatever. It's a broken
Right.
finger. Broken lung.
A
Hockey's a
broken
very
yeah.
heavy cardio sport.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good
A
luck
broken rib is
breathing.
insane.
You guys
Like,
ever
I don't
broken a rib?
think
No.
It
no, but
sucks. It's real
yeah, I've heard
awful.
about it.
It is real awful. I highly recommend never doing it. Trust
Yeah.
me. It is awful. You can't breathe. It's constant pain anywhere you move. And even if you break more than one,
Fucking forget about it. Yeah.
My wife, when she was younger, broke all the ribs on one side, off the front and back.
yeah.
Punctured, deflated her lung, and now she has
Fuck.
3 titanium ribs.
Jesus.
So
I mean, that is badass.
she
Yeah.
it is kind of badass.
So
Except
Brett's
when
the
she was trying to,
Terminator.
yeah, she is literally
She's the
trying to find a
Terminator.
wedding dress was fun because it didn't really do what it needed to do because
Yeah.
titanium ribs don't flex.
Yeah, they
Uh,
don't bend.
But she said that's absolutely one of the most. She agrees with you and says that that's one
It's
of the most
awful.
miserable things you can do.
It's awful.
It's just
I couldn't imagine breaking a rib and then going to play 22 minutes of professional hockey in the Stanley Cup
no.
final.
Hockey
No,
players are
absolutely not.
fucking crazy, yo.
But
And I mean, they do have the help of doctors. I'm sure they're getting fucking juiced up like there's no tomorrow. They're absolutely being dealt pain meds and getting fucking shots of this, that, and the other. So
there's no way
they
you're
have
not.
medical help to get through it. There's no fucking way they're not.
There's no way
but
you're not.
I
Yeah.
I think this just goes to further solidify that hockey players are some of the most badass people when it comes to sports.
Oh,
Also
yeah.
batshit insane.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, 'cause
You have
what
to
was
be.
the player a few years ago that got his throat cut on the ice, got it sewed up, and then was like, "Hey, coach, put me back in. I want to play."
Well,
I don't know.
I
But
know
yeah, wouldn't
I
surprise
know
me.
that Evander Kane had his wrist sliced open, cut his main artery in his wrist, and came back like what, a month later
Right.
Yeah, like
and
month and
was
a half, I
fine.
think.
I
It
mean,
was
Yeah.
these
insane.
people consistently get teeth knocked out, spit it on the ice, and like, "All right, let's keep going."
Let's
And
keep
then you
going.
Yeah.
have like basketball players that like trip over their imagination, and they're getting
Oh,
carted off the
soccer.
They're
court.
like
Soccer.
Soccer's
flopping.
the worst for
Oh,
Oh my
them.
I'm
god, I
so
watched
hurt.
what was it? Canada versus Peru today. What a
Yeah.
didn't even
Yeah,
touch the
what a
guy,
fucking
and he got
joke.
carted off the field. I'm like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Hockey players,
I mean,
lacrosse players
they're
are
a
the
different breed.
craziest fucking sport or craziest athletes.
100%.
And this proves it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another crazy stat, we don't have any fines or suspensions. However, I did take the liberty of tallying up all of the money that was surrendered through a fine or suspension. The only thing that's still outstanding is Valery Nakushkin's fine because he is
It
still in
hasn't been
that player's
announced
assistance
yet.
program.
Yeah.
It hasn't been announced yet because he has not completed the program, so they cannot enter in a salary for that. However, with that being excluded, through fines and suspensions, the players' assistance fund has gained $1,853,856.63 this season from
Holy
bad boy
crap.
behavior.
That is insane. That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. I mean, they
That's
need
really
all
good.
$1.8 million of that money.
Yeah.
Healthcare is not cheap. So I guess shout out to all the people who were bad boys this season,
Thanks,
for
Rebels.
buffing up that fund.
So I want to pose a question.
Uh-huh.
On the topic of Valerian Nichushkin, we have now seen 2 seasons in a row where, due to this issue in the
Yeah.
playoffs, Valeri has left his team hanging.
Let his team down big time.
Do you think the Colorado Avalanche move on from Nichushkin in the offseason?
Yep. Yeah. I think that the way he violated his player assistance agreement, the details are still not known. But the timing of it and judging by the way his contract was like violated in terms of he's out for 6 months is what they're saying because of the severity of his violation. Um, I see them sticking through him because contractually they have to the end of his deal with the Players Assistance Program and whatever the outcome of that is. And then I see them swiftly moving on. I would not be surprised to see him, if he's eligible to be put on waivers, to be put on waivers. I'm not sure where he stands in all of that. Otherwise, I would not be surprised to see a trade being made for him to say, like, hey, maybe he just needs a change of environment. Maybe the Colorado Rocky Mountains aren't for him, and he needs to
Yeah.
be in a warmer climate where drugs suck that much more. I don't know.
I mean, he's still
I have
got
no
a
idea.
lot left in his contract too. Like
Yeah,
he's not eligible for restricted free or a UFA until the 2029-2030 season. He signed an 8-year, $49 million deal that he's only 3 years into.
that's
So
gonna fuck some shit up for them, but I think they'll just bite the bullet
you're
and
gonna you're
continue
gonna
to pay out
have
on his
to.
contract.
You're gonna
I
have
don't
to.
see them keeping him. Not after 2 years of them letting him down in the cup race, because, who's to say that we would have had maybe Edmonton, um, not make it to the final and Colorado be there instead?
Yeah, I mean because
But that's the
Colorado
thing though,
has
is
the team.
if he broke the contract, their lawyers are scrubbing through that to
Mhm,
see, based on what was done and the severity of it,
mhm.
can we save money and just drop him now?
Yeah,
Well,
And if they can't, how do they penalize him?
the thing there
right.
is you're gonna have to buy him out because that's a big contract and that's a good
Yeah,
amount of money that you're gonna have to buy out. That's dead cap space. That's gonna
Yeah.
hurt them for the upcoming season. Like you're going to
potentially.
lose. Yeah,
Unless they can find the loophole in the contract where it says you broke A, you lose B.
yeah,
A lot of contracts have, like, a morality clause
yeah,
where, we don't we don't have to stick to the terms of the deal, or the terms of the deal are decreased by 50%. So instead of the 8,000,000 or whatever that he was due for next season, he'll now get paid 4,000,000, and so that's a lot less cap space, honestly.
yeah. Because his cap hit is currently 6.125 million. So
Yeah,
you think if they can trading him is best case scenario.
yeah,
Trading him is best case scenario because you can just walk away.
mhm,
You may have to retain some of his salary because it's a big contract, but
right,
essentially he no longer hinders your team from an on ice perspective.
right,
So I
Well, and
just
it's a thing like that that sucks because you don't want to penalize him if they decide to keep him and bench him because now you're
right,
paying him to be a bench warmer a lot of money.
yeah,
But on the other hand of that, if you put him on the ice, he could be pissed and have no more loyalty to the franchise and just not play good.
and
yeah,
let's be honest, he's on 2 strikes.
mhm,
If he violates the rules for the player assistance program again, there's no guarantee he's allowed to ever play in the NHL again. Like
correct.
that's
The
how it goes.
Yeah,
If you
that's the
do it a
3rd
third
strike.
time, your third strike is you're suspended for a year and you're not guaranteed to be reinstated.
And
Mhm,
honestly, because of him if he did get suspended, no one would pick him back up.
no,
Well, again, you first off, you'd have to be allowed back to be eligible to play in the NHL
Right.
again, and then hope you
yeah,
get picked up. Now, once he's his what is it, after his player
6
assistance
months.
program is set, he will be suspended for 6 months. That means you will be missing the first third of the 2024-2025 season,
So that's
at
the only
least.
thing that we still haven't gotten clarification on. The suspension happened May 13th of 2024. There hasn't been clarification as to whether the 6 months started then and is a 6
I
calendar month and ends
think
in
it
November,
starts.
or it's 6 months. He did a month of it because it was technically during playoff time, and
Yeah,
that would have counted, and then the remainder of that 5 months or whatever starts, at the start of the new season. I have not seen clarification on that,
I
so I'm
think
unsure.
it takes place after his time in the program is over. I think that's what it said.
But I
I
think that
could
that
be
can be
wrong.
counted 6
I
calendar months because he could be in the program for 6 calendar months and not 6,
it six
season
calendar
months.
he Nichushkin will be suspended for at least 6 calendar months, which
Okay,
the
so
earliest
then
means
we
he could
will
return at
November.
mid-November.
Yep.
He's still missing the whole like first 2 months of the season,
Yeah, month and a half.
I
month
mean,
and a half
Actually,
ish.
month.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
better for
yeah,
the
October 13th.
franchise though that if he only misses 2 months, a month and a half, as opposed to 6 full months.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
because
right.
now
absolutely.
you can still play him, you can still put him in, you're not losing as much money, and it's not that bad of a deal in the franchise.
But the question is, has he burned that bridge with them where you're not wanting to play him at all? He gets out in mid-November, provided that he completes all of his mandatory requirements through those 6 months, because it can be extended. That's the other thing, is that it can be extended, if he's not meeting his target deadlines for the milestones he needs to, achieve.
Yeah, and it's too
So
bad.
let's say he does get out in November, out of the assistance program. Again, is he the healthy scratch every night of the fucking week until they can make a trade? Is he
Yeah,
on LTIR until
yeah.
they can make a
How do
trade?
how do they do this?
How do they do this?
I guess we're
Or
about to find out.
or is he sincerely contrite enough in whatever fuck up he had that they believe him and they open him back with open arms? I don't know, because we don't know the details of what he did to violate his contract. And I do think that we shouldn't speculate on it. I don't think that that's necessarily fair to him. Um, and I don't think we should have another Corey Perry fucked Connor Bedard's mom situation on our
Yeah,
hands.
that
I
was
think that that was
funny,
a lot
but
of
like
insanity.
that's a whole other scenario. And
Yeah,
yeah, no, I
exactly.
agree. I agree.
Honestly, I
Hopefully,
think
this
they
is
should
everything Val
release
needs.
I think they should release the details of it and let the fans decide. You know? Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, if you lost the trust of the fans,
But
it's
at the
not
end
worth
of the
it.
day, the decision of what happens is not up to the fans. His future is not in the like hands of the fan base. The future is in the hands of the organizations and the
Uh,
league
but there
itself.
are some things that I do believe that the fans should have final say on. Like
Mm.
when we talked, and we've talked at length before, and there is no update, so we can't really give you one. But the sexual assault of the multiple NHL players who assaulted a woman that night, back in their Canada hockey days.
Yeah,
Um, as a fan, if any of one of them had played on my team, I would be demanding my GM to say
just go.
sayonara,
Yeah, yeah.
because I don't think that that is something that you can come back from. And I do
Oh, I
think
agree.
that fans
I
should have
agree.
say when it is violations of like that high of a moral issue. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I don't think I should necessarily have final say if he has a crippling drug addiction.
Yeah.
That to me is not my business. That is a
Right.
medical thing. That is his business and it's the team's business. When it's something that you grossly endangered another person, and especially if you took pleasure in doing that, get fucked. See you
Yeah.
never.
No,
So I
I
do
agree.
think,
That I
like
can
I'm with
agree.
Maul, that there are certain things that the fan base, if that's what happened, they should be made aware of, and they should be able to say, we never want to see
Yeah.
this guy in the NHL again.
That I can
Um,
I can absolutely agree with. This
You
situation I
can
yeah,
don't think it would work, but I do agree with that.
you
yeah,
can see it historically though throughout sports where
mhm,
if for example, like it comes out that, again, as a Patriots fan, they're recording other people and that became a whole scandal.
mhm,
Okay, everyone does it. The fans stayed behind the team and went with them. But then, again, as a Patriots fan, you have like an Aaron Hernandez who gets convicted of murder. Everyone's like, no,
Yeah.
yeah, see you later. Like they just dropped it and that was the end of it. They were like, no, we don't
mhm,
want you around. I mean, you can't be around for obvious reasons, but
right,
we're not going to support the franchise if they continue to support you. And in that organization, the fans, even though they don't legally, financially have a say, if you can't sell a stadium or an arena, that's a testament. That's a protest.
yeah,
That's hey,
Yeah.
we're not doing this because you're
mhm,
not doing what's in our best interest and what we think this organization should be representative because
yeah,
sport should be for everyone and you shouldn't
mhm,
feel um you know
unsafe.
unsafe
Mhm.
or uneasy about a team or a player or you shouldn't have those feelings. Sports are where you escape the reality of life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And there
You
are some players, and we've talked about this on a lot of our episodes. There are some players who have beliefs that are vastly different from mine, right? Like I'm obviously very clearly a supporter of the LGBTQIA community. There are players in the NHL that are fucking homophobic. I think that they are garbage human beings, and I think that if you wanna hit them a little hard on the ice, hit them a little hard on the ice. Maybe it'll knock some sense into them. Do I think they deserve to never play the sport again because they're homophobic? No, asterisk, unless they do something that is, like,
Hateful,
a hate crime. Yeah,
Yeah.
directed hate.
directed hate,
Mhm.
then yes.
Or
But if it's
indirect.
just like
Indirect too.
yeah, I mean, I think if they're just like, you know, "I believe in God, I believe in the sanctity of marriage. I dislike you. I don't think you should ever be put on media day."
Right.
I like, that to me is indirect hate, but if you say that, like, all gay people are evil and have the devil in them, that's a directed hate thing, get fucked.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know what I
No,
mean?
I mean,
There's a difference there
obviously
to me, but it's kind of yeah. I
obviously
mean,
I
we all know.
agree as yeah,
Yeah,
with obviously me being openly bisexual and
right.
such. I very much so agree, and I can tell you how toxic those locker rooms used to be when I played growing up, and it's a totally different thing
Yeah,
now, but yeah, no, I can agree with what you guys are saying. Like for sure.
yeah. So we'll
So
see.
let if they can, let the
Mhm.
detail come out.
Hmm.
Yeah,
If you're looking for the scales to be balanced or tip in one way, let the fans decide.
Yeah.
Are we gonna stand behind him because he fucked up and he's gonna own it? Or are we gonna tell him to pound dirt because he fucked up and he
Oh,
thinks that because he gets paid as much as he does that he's better than everyone?
yeah.
considering last year's situation was very
Yeah,
different. Last
yeah.
year's situation was not good.
No.
For those that do not know, um, in game 2 of the series against the Seattle Kraken, Nichushkin abruptly stepped away from the team for personal issues. Amid an incident at a Seattle hotel, Nichushkin was reportedly found with an Eastern European woman suffering from severe alcohol intoxication. The woman was reported to either be a prostitute or a victim of human trafficking. He was
Yeah,
not
there
charged
were
with
mhm.
criminal charges, but
There were reports that she was saying that she was being held against her will and she was not being given her passport so that she could leave.
yeah,
The tricky part with that, and the only reason why I'm like, I can't say goodbye forever to him is because those reports didn't come directly from her.
right,
Those were I know somebody who said that this is what happened. And so that is a little bit trickier for me to be like, okay, yeah, we should absolutely get rid of him for good. Um, because if the victim isn't speaking up about it, and if there wasn't enough evidence when he was forcibly dragged out of that hotel by police officers, um, I kind of have to lean towards there wasn't enough there to prove that kind of an allegation.
right.
And so I'm not going to make a decision one way or the other about his eligibility. If more details about that come out, and that's what this secondary thing is that there was yet another woman in his hotel room that was, supposedly held against her will, then yeah, get the
Well,
fuck rid of him
the
forever.
question this time is it's been known that Nichushkin has a problem with cocaine.
Yes,
He's tested positive on a couple different drug
cocaine. Yeah.
tests.
Hmm.
Um, it seems to be a uh, a
And
problem
that
with
to
some
me,
Russian players recently.
I know I was just gonna
Kuznetsov,
say,
but
yeah, having someone who had that problem on their team, we loved
like
Kuznetsov. We wanted the best for him.
likes Hoover and Schneef a little too much.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say, Kuzi did a hell of a job in the postseason. It was very clear, from the way he played and the way he talked about his issues that he was taking accountability, for falling back into his drug use because he was so unhappy in Washington, due to coaching and management situations,
Yeah,
which does not excuse, uh, what happened. However, drug addiction is a fucking hell of a thing, you know?
yeah,
So there, I think, yeah, give the guy some grace if he is actively working on it and his family is supporting him and helping him to stay clean. The trade was the best thing that happened to him.
Mhm.
yeah. I That's why I think with the situation we just kind of have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Yeah. Well, on that fun note, Chris, why don't you talk us through who our obscure NHL player of the week is? This is, as usual, our favorite segment and the segment we end all of our shows with. So let's see what surprise you have in store for us today.
All right. Well, our obscure NHL player of the week is a
I knew that was
player by the
happening.
name of Chad Cabana. Born October 1st, 1974, in Bonnyville, Alberta, Canada. Cabana was the 213th overall pick in the 1993 draft by the Florida Panthers. In honor of the
Okay,
Panthers, I figured I'd make sure to
timely.
include. Um,
There you go.
anyone want any fun facts about this guy? What? Anyone? Anything special? What do you think?
He moonlighted as the janitor.
Ooh, good one.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He had 8 toes.
Ooh,
You know what?
could have.
You can
I
decide the
wish
split, but he only has 8 in total.
I wish that was the the reasoning. No, he never played a single game in the NHL.
Oh, okay.
But this
But he won a
motherfucker was
cup.
a menace.
Oh, okay.
No. Okay. So, he spent 4 seasons in the Western Hockey,
At
the
the
Canadian Hockey
Copacabana?
League.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
had
at the
to.
Copacabana. He played in the Western Hockey League with the Tri-City Americans for 4 years, 76 goals, 98 assists. In 260 games, he had 576 penalty minutes. But
Bro.
we're not done. He played 293 games in the AHL for
Okay.
the Carolina Monarchs, New Haven
No
Beast,
longer
which
exist.
I don't even remember the New Haven Beast, the Louisville Panthers, and the Providence Bruins. He had 33 goals, 43 assists, 1,010 penalty minutes.
He sounds like my player
Dude.
on pro career on NHL.
Dude, right?
All he
Like
does is like to fight.
my guy on NHL is the same way. I've got like 87 goals,
Bro.
43 games into the season, but I've had like 50 fights.
Dude, the amount of
That's
misconduct
nuts.
and fighting that this guy probably had.
6
How
Yeah.
many teeth,
playoff
how many teeth
games.
does he have left?
I don't know.
How
6
many teeth has
playoff
he collected, I
games.
think is the better question.
Probably all of them. He's probably like fucking
Wears them as a necklace.
Kesha and
Right?
has a necklace of all of her fans' teeth. That's a
You-
thing
you
that
think
Kesha has. But
You think it's a pearl necklace, but it's actually made of
it's
teeth.
actually
Teeth, yeah.
It's just rounded off.
Yeah.
When it comes to the playoffs in the AHL, he played in 6 games, 33 penalty minutes. In his one season in the
Dude,
UHL
what?
with the Fort Wayne Comets, 7 games he played in the regular season. 1 goal, 3 assists, 56 penalty minutes, 12 games in the playoffs. 1 goal, 6 assists, 47 penalty minutes.
Dude, what was this motherfucker? Was he just shitting on people, like,
Wait,
on
was
ice?
he picked up
Literally.
They
just
ran out
to,
of
just to be an
penalties to give him?
enforcer? Is that all they
Must
wanted?
have
Was to
been.
go on ice and fight?
Yeah.
Was he
I
a Chara
think
before
so.
Chara?
I think so. He ended his career
He's the
in
original Bash brother.
whatever the
Yeah.
fuck the World Hockey Association 2, which played 1 season. He played 10 games, 5 goals, 2 assists, 6 penalty minutes, and he had 15 penalty minutes in 2 games in the playoffs.
The crazy thing is, like, it's not like he's not producing. I mean,
I know.
5 goals, 2 assists, or whatever it was.
In
That's
10
not nothing
games.
in 10 games. That's
He
pretty
had
good.
2 points in 2 playoff games.
Which is impressive because it's like, how are you doing that when you're spending half of your time in the fucking penalty box?
But he didn't have
Like,
any
how are you
points
supposed?
in the playoffs in the AHL.
That's crazy.
He's got easily 100 penalty minutes in the like 30 games he played in the WHL playoffs.
Jeez.
This fucking guy, out of control. Out
Wow.
of control. That is bananas.
That
There
is
is no
insane.
information on what he's doing now.
I can tell you, he has
Professional
CTE.
He probably has CTE.
He probably has CTE now.
I imagine. But shout out to Chad Cabana as our obscure NHL player of the week.
Wow. What a way to end it, as we were just talking about all the money that players like him contributed to the fund. He never got a chance to because he didn't play in the NHL. But I'm sure the AHL has some sort of fine system
Oh,
going.
and I'm
We just
sure
never
he
pay any
was
attention to it.
very much so fined.
Yeah, 100%.
Signs
Especially
over
when
his
he had
paycheck
1,000
every week.
fucking minutes, right? The
That's
band
insane.
played for free. Sounds like it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Honestly. Well, thank you, Chris. That was very fun.
Yeah.
We all love when we get bad boys on the show. If you are a former player, an obscure NHL player who was a bad boy, hit us up. We have an email somewhere. We would love to have you
Yes.
on the show and to interview and to find out what the fuck, bro. Especially you, Chad. Let us know.
Yeah,
Call my
Chad, if
agent.
you're listening. Also, he's no Tiger Williams, who we discovered earlier in
True,
the
true,
season has
true.
almost 4,000 career penalty minutes,
Yeah. Shout out to
which is
Tiger.
bananas.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. If you have a question of the week that you would like us to answer, or just a question in general that you want us to answer, as long as it's not your trigonometry homework, we can help. Maybe ask it in the chat down below. If you are watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. It's fucking free. Hit the follow button. Also conveniently free. If you're on any other platform, be sure and subscribe. Again, all this shit is free, yo. The only thing we charge for is our only feet.
And that's
That's
not a thing.
Didn't we try to make it a thing at one point? I feel
I
like
don't
we
know,
did.
but then I think we realized that no one wants to stare at my
No one
Hobbit
actually wants
feet,
to do
so
it.
like.
Yeah,
Also,
fair.
I
There's
do
got
want
to
to
be
mention
someone though.
this is episode 57 of the podcast.
Whoop whoop. And the almost the end of season duh. We will have, I think, one more episode to go over
And then we have some
draft
fun stuff
stuff.
coming out in the summer, in the off
Yeah.
season. So we'll talk more about that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for being with us this week. Do me a favor in the comment section, besides telling us your question of the week or asking us what the Iliad was about, whatever it is that you're going to do down there, let us know who you would like to see in the Stanley Cup Finals next year. If you can pick two teams today, who would they be to make it to the
And,
final?
and what are
And
their
then we will
favorite colors?
viciously mock you in June of 2025. Just kidding. We won't do that. We
Or
would
who knows?
never.
You could be the next Dave and get it right.
Yeah, exactly. And then you'll be banned from our show forever.
Yeah, but like, all right, now we have to let Dave know that he's no longer banned. Like,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
he
Anyway,
also
thank
gave
you
a
guys.
half-ass pick. Let's be fair. He just
Right?
picked a team and didn't do anything fancy this year. So
I know. Last year he gave us like stat lines and
a
shit.
breakdown, and he was right about all of it. I was like, the fuck?
I know.
It's bullshit.
But thank God, because it gets him back, so he can rejoin society this year. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. I don't have nearly as cool of a sign off as Chris with his peace, love, puss suitor. So instead, you're stuck with "We love you, mother puckers," and we will see you in the face off circle next week.